Hey everyone, it is Catherine again, and welcome to my kitchen. For Thanksgiving, I know a lot of people out there love to do apple pie, but for our family, since we do pumpkin pie, we like to mix things up and go for an apple crisp instead of apple pie. So apple crisp is one of my favorite fall desserts, super easy. Let's get started. So, need a recipe, right? I have come back to my ever popular miscellaneous pieces of paper that I have stuffed in a metal tin, and I found my apple crisp recipe. To start with, we want to kind of think of it in two parts. We've got filling and we have the topping. So let's start on the filling, because that's kind of the time-consuming part. You need 3 to 4 apples. I've got them here. They are all cleaned and ready to be peeled. Alright everybody, we have 4 apples, cored, sliced, peeled, everything, all in our bowl here. The next thing that we need to do is combine some flour and butter. Our butter is going to be 3 tablespoons. This is nice softened butter. We've got 3 tablespoons going right in there. And then we need to put in our flour. And our flour is going to be 2 tablespoons. 1. 2. And then we are going to go ahead and combine that, which I think I will use this right here. Alright, we have got nice combined flour and butter. We're going to go ahead and add our milk and vanilla. Now our milk is just going to be 3 tablespoons. A little splash won't hurt. 3 tablespoons. And then our vanilla is going to be 1/2 of a teaspoon. Good thing that did not fall in our mixture here. 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. Checking my recipe to make sure that's everything, and I'm going to stir that together now. I'm not always the cleanest and not messiest home baker, but that's okay. Got my mixture mixing up nicely. You can also melt your butter. Probably would have been the way to go. Usually do that. And I thought, oh no, I've got this nice softened butter. It'll be perfect. I mean, it'll do, but it would have been easier if it was melted. Alright. So, next I want to stir in my brown sugar, cinnamon, and salt, some of my dry ingredients. So for my brown sugar, I am going to need 1/4 of a cup, which it does not look like I brought any measuring cups. Let's see what I can find in here real quick. We've got good enough. Alright, so I want 1/4 cup of my brown sugar. And then I'm also going to add that cinnamon like I mentioned. We are going to want about 1/2 teaspoon. And then just a dash of salt. Always check, make sure it's not your pepper. Dash of salt. A little behind the shoulder for good luck. I always shut my cinnamon because I have had accidents before. No thank you. Now I'm going to mix this all together. And once I am done mixing this together, which is coming together nicely. I'm going to go ahead and take this mixture. I've got my apples here. I'm just going to pour it right in here. Now, had you melted the butter, like I should have, you would just give this a simple toss just by kind of holding your bowl and going like this. That's all you'd have to do. But alas, I did not melt my butter. So I'm going to use my hands. I want to make sure that butter mixture gets all over and incorporated nicely with my apples. Perfect. It's also just a wonderful smell. It reminds me of fall. It reminds me of my mom's home baking. It just makes me happy. But once I have this nicely mixed together, leave as much of it in the bowl as I can, and the rest I wipe on my husband. Just joking, that's what aprons are for. Or your clothes. I worked in a pizza shop for many, many years, and my boss would always make fun of me because he would walk in and you could tell when I was working with the dough because there'd be flour all over my hips. But, not making pizza day, making apple crisp. So I've got my apples, I've got a beautiful pie pan, was my mother's pie pan. I'm going to go ahead and just pour my apples right in here. And I'm going to take my spatula and get everything I can out of this bowl. Okay. I'm going to just push that around a little bit, making sure it covers the bottom of my pan nicely. I've already used my hands. I'll continue to do so. All right, so my filling is complete. Next, remember I said this was 2 parts basically. Next I'm going to work on my crumble. So I'm going to take this and set it aside, and I'm going to go ahead and grab my clean bowl, get these ones out of here. And our crumble is going to start with a little bit more flour than we used a minute ago. We need a whole 1/2 cup. So we've got 1/2 cup of flour here. We want a 1/2 cup of our oats. Instant oats are just fine. 1/2 cup of our oats. We want to come back to that cinnamon. We want a 1/4 teaspoon of that. Fourth teaspoon of our cinnamon. I would like to come back to some brown sugar. And brown sugar we are going to use a 1/2 cup. Do not drop the brown sugar. Brown sugar nicely compacted into there. And then we are going to go ahead and add our baking powder, which I have somewhere. Ooh, baking powder. We are going to need a 1/2 teaspoon. Perfect. And then I need a 1/3 cup of butter, which is also not melted. Am I going to learn my own lesson and melt this butter? Yes, I am. I'll be right back. While that is melting, I'm going to go ahead and just whip this and mix it up a little bit. Get all my dry ingredients mixed together before I kind of clump it and compact it with that butter that I'm melting. Ooh, which I can hear it. It is ready. Nice mixed up topping. Grabbing my melty butter and pouring that right in. Scraping my butter. That makes it a lot easier than the harder butter, even though it was softened. But got this nice coming together topping. And I'm going to bring back those apples. I'm going to bring back the idea of using my hands. And I am just going to take my crumble, give it one last mix up with my hands here, and start dispersing it on top of my apples. Ooh, it actually reminds me of a pizza we used to make at the pizza shop. It was a Dutch apple pizza, and it had a topping, kind of streusel topping, just like this. And it had apple pie filling in it. Oh, that was so good. But this apple crisp is perfect and ready to go in my preheated oven of 375. Already done. And this is going to go in our oven for about 30 minutes. So let me pop this in and I will see you guys in about a half hour. Alright, so it's been about a half hour. Let's check on our apple crisp. Well, that's pretty perfect. So we're gonna go ahead. What I want to look for is a nice brown top, which it has. It's not burned. I've got bubbly goodness coming out the side. This is ready to come out. Now, as I just mentioned, there's some delicious, hot, bubbly, gooey goodness that we are not going to try right now. This definitely needs to cool down. So why don't I cool this down and we'll taste it in a few. So it's time to try our apple crisp. Oh, I cannot wait to dig in. Apple crisp is a fun, easy, delicious dessert that everybody loves, I think, at least. Unless they don't like apples, then I guess they wouldn't love it. But I am just going to take a little taste because I don't want to steal too much from the family. Oh yeah. You got that apple, you got all that good cinnamon and brown sugar. Oh, that is perfect. And I know he won't say no to this one. Bite. Not so bad. I hope you enjoy this kind of new take on something you can do apple related for Thanksgiving. Why don't you go try this in your kitchen and get out of mine.